Once a week in the Hohenschönhausen district of Berlin, a line forms in front of the Leib und Seele store. More than 100 people come here regularly to pick up food. For a token €1, they're given rations of fruit and vegetables to last them for a week. One of the regulars is Manuela Arnim. She's got 6 children and is a qualified sales assistant, but last year she lost her job. The money her husband makes in his cleaning job isn't enough to make ends meet.
I have to say, at first it was a little embarrassing, but we've got used to it in the meantime, and it's okay.
This is just one of the 45 food banks run by the Berliner Tafel Foundation. The organization claims to support 125,000 Berliners each week. It started life 20 years ago as a private initiative. Today it's a large-scale operation run by 600 volunteers, along with a dozen or so full-time staff. One of them is fleet manager Robert Hedram.
We transport 660 tons of food each month, for which we need a sophisticated logistics system.
20 transport vans, all donated, distribute to homeless shelters and soup kitchens, as well as to stores for the needy, like the one in Hohenschönhausen. But some say such charitable projects actually exacerbate poverty. Trade unions and other groups say the schemes don't get to the root of the problem, and they let politicians off the hook.
The soup kitchen movement has become a symbol for the descent into poverty of a large section of society, as well as the failure of social policy and the labor market. They're filling a gap which has allowed the government to neglect and forget its responsibility. We're seeing long-term cultural change taking place, and we want to caution against that.
These activists want to show that the gap between rich and poor is growing.
We want to draw attention symbolically to the uneven distribution of wealth and the devastating situation for low-wage workers in Germany.
Such criticism is not new to Sabine Werth, who founded and heads the Berliner Tafel. But she says she sees no alternative because the need is so great.
I'm aware that there's an element of shame in going to a charity or a soup kitchen. Many people in need don't go to distribution points because they're ashamed. We try to dress the wounds, so to speak, but we're not the solution.
Critics say such projects conceal political failure. They say it's high time for the state to take responsibility for the country's poor, rather than letting private institutions take up the slack. Across Germany, more than 1 million people avail themselves of soup kitchens.
Of course it's great for politicians. Poverty is no longer a political problem, but a private one. It has become individualized, confined to a private local sphere. But we say soup kitchens can relieve poverty, but that's not the way to tackle the roots of the problem.
But critics are divided about what the best course of action should be. There is growing consensus, though, that food banks aren't a long-term solution. Here at Leib und Seele in Hohenschönhausen, some have their doubts, too.
I think politicians should be concerned about this. I'd be happy if one day there were no food banks anymore. That way I'd know that the people who come here now are doing better.
A few blocks away, Manuela Arnim is grateful for the supplies she's lugging upstairs to her 4th-floor flat. But she tells us she'd rather be working. And she's got clear ideas on what changes should be made at the political level.
Increase children's allowance and wages, and keep down the cost of rent and electricity, which have both gotten pretty high.
Handouts might not be the solution, but the large number relying on them provides food for thought.